believe in serving the leadership, I think everyone in the room. But if we look at our political leaders, they are generally speaking the most self-serving people in America. How do you add up those are our leaders when this is the right thing to do for all the right reasons? I asked that on November 6, 2018, by the way.
We tried not to make this political, but we're going to answer that. Go ahead, Tom.
Jim, thank you for raising that up. Sometimes we're afraid to talk about the elephant in the room. However, leaders are people who bring people from different perspectives together for a greater good. You cannot be called a leader unless you have followers, and you're not a leader if you're only talking to people who agree with you. In your businesses, your organizations, your institutions, do you only work with people that you like? Not at all. It's for a greater good. And I think we have to challenge people. In Wisconsin, Lee Rosh, the president of Western Technical College, has begun a program called Leader Ethics, in which we have a scorecard on political leaders in the state of Wisconsin, and nonpartisan, are you acting ethically? And having conversations in terms of what is it that we expect of the people that we choose to lead us. That's one thing. As seekers, we need to choose carefully our leaders and hold them to high expectations. Second, what has to happen is that I believe all of us need to recover the vocation of being a citizen and a neighbor. In an article written by David Brooks in the New York Times last week, the name of the article is "Something Good is Happening in America." And what's happening, communities are finding themselves not being drawn together by partisan politics, but by a common interest as how to make our community better, healthier, more safe for ourselves and for our children and for our families. And people from across political lines are coming together, working on a common good. And we're seeing this in a number of different communities. That's what this is right now, and it's longitudinal. It's not going to be short term. But I think, Jim, what we have to do is we have to raise the standards. Here it is. How many of you have recently encouraged a member of your family to run for political office? Thank you. But isn't it interesting? We do not ask the best and bright of us to be public servants. Oh, we can't do. Well, then why do we complain? If we are not out recruiting and encouraging the best among us to take on leadership roles, what begins to take place? And so I think we have a responsibility both as citizens and as neighbors to make sure that our leaders are the people that we want to represent us. But we all cannot abdicate our own personal responsibility for leadership in the community. Robert Greenleaf said this: the people who are responsible for changing the world are the people in their 60s. And you ask people in their 60s who should change the world, they say people in their 20s. Have you talked to the 20-something recently? They have articles now on quarter-life crisis. But for those of us who are older, look at this good man. He could put his feet up and say, well, let's let somebody else do it. But what happens in terms of elder? Have a sense of wisdom and life experience. We have the time, we have the energy and the resources. What are we doing for the next generation? And so it's a two-part kind of question. One is in terms of what we demand from our leaders. Two, what are we demanding of ourselves?
Thank you.
I would give you another take on this. I'm going to try to do this in 60 seconds. On the leadership end, in the 70s, an author wrote something that he thought was about how to lead politically, a moral content. They all had different words for this. That iteration went forward, 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 until somebody took the other people's studies, wrote a book for academics, and he said, leadership has nothing to do with moral and ethical behavior. And that has been taught in higher education for 35 years. About 10 years ago, that was on a world level completely wiped out through a dissertation, academic world. And now everybody's searching for the right leadership. On the other side, the school system was originally started, the first public school, to give us moral citizens, people with virtue, our founders called it. That went into industrial era, we need people that can read, write, and computate. And they said, okay, instead of just teaching morals and virtue, it really was virtue, we're gonna put civics and citizenship in place. And in about 30 years ago, civics and citizen was replaced with 51 other things that we, the citizens, said to the schools, go take care of all these problems that should be taken care of in school. And what happened to civics and citizenship? It's gone. And the teachers are locked down with procedures who are supposed to do it, when in fact our examples tell the story. And that's what we're wrestling with today. That's what Wisconsin character education is about. That's an exemplar in the country here in Wisconsin. That's what servant leadership is about. At this moment, servant leadership and character education is being put together in a program in St. Louis for PhD students in education. Potential superintendents, principals of schools, probably already are. And they've merged the two together because they belong together. One is a concept, the other is a bunch of principles that in the way in which you conduct yourself. So we're working at it. But it's us, each one of us. That's who decides this.